Welcome back. Today, actually, before I begin, can I see the hands of everybody who is not part of a lab group consisting of exactly 3 members? Okay, look around at all of you who are not members of lab groups that consist of 3. Okay, at the end of class, find each other in the hallway and solve that problem. Okay, great. I don't think I'll try to give you some time, but I can't promise that. But try to look right outside the hallway. You know who you are now. What we're trying to do today and Monday is to cover the period known as the early modern period. This is the European context from which colonization of the so-called New World begins. Where we left off was with Spain and Portugal. And the case that I was making was that Spain and Portugal got off to the early start. They were the first, and they were very successful colonists. And they built rather a different kind of empire. I'm going to pick up right there, talk about how the empires were different, or at least review, and then turn to why things didn't go so great for Spain after this period. And finally, most of our lecture I hope to devote to why things did go well for England. So that's the idea. Yesterday it was Monday was the Italian city-states in decline. This time it will be Spain and Portugal rising and falling, being replaced by England. That's the main idea, and and that's what we'll try to cover. Okay, so as I was saying, Spain and Portugal pursued very different kinds of strategies, based to some extent on the fact that Portugal went first and did the geography right. They knew how big the world was, so they declined to send Columbus out on his stupid voyage. Instead, they pursued a strategy of flying the coast of Africa for 80 years until they finally got around the Cape of Good Hope. And that turned out to be a very successful strategy for an empire that was based on trade. Trade in all kinds of things, most ominously including slaves. Okay. The Spanish, on the other hand, took example with Columbus, sailed straight across and bumped into this continent, or these 2 continents. And after fumbling around a while, they discovered that the right strategy was to simply enslave the people and extract the gold. And that's what they did. They started in the island of Hispaniola, which is Haiti and the Dominican Republic today, and they bounced from there to Puerto Rico, and then to Cuba, and then to Mexico, and then from Mexico they went into South America, particularly in Bolivia and Peru, modern-day Bolivia and Peru, and captured both the Aztec and Inca empires. As the indigenous population died out, they imported African slaves they bought from the Portuguese. Okay. So two very different strategies, both of which are successful in their way, and both of which are quite cruel, both of which are instrumental in the growth of the Atlantic slave system, which is part of the broader Atlantic system, which ultimately the English will be capitalizing on. This line in yellow here, it's hard for us to see, but there's a yellow line running right through Greenland all the way south. That line was drawn by the Pope in 1493, just a year after Columbus' voyage, and it's known as the Treaty of Tordesillas, and it separates it. It actually puts into law these 2 different strategies. The Pope drew this line and said, Portugal, you get this part, Spain, you get that part. And that shows a certain amount of hubris on the part of the Pope, but it also illustrates rather a tremendous amount of hubris, don't you think, to draw a line down the middle of the Atlantic. But it also shows the relative power of Portugal and Spain. No one else was consulted, not the people who lived in the New World or in Asia, and not the rest of Europe. It was enough. That was a quorum. The Pope, the King of Spain, the King of Portugal. They could decide. That I think tells us how much power had shifted, say, from the Italian city-states and how it had not yet managed to arrive in further north. Not surprisingly, having this great continent to work with, Spain's future looked pretty good, and they have a pretty good 1500s, a pretty good 16th century, that is. But by the 16th century, by the end of the 1500s, things start to fall apart, and one of the main reasons for that is the Protestant Reformation. The Protestant Reformation begins on October 31st, 1517. It's unusual for intellectual movements to begin on a certain fixed date like that, but this one does because Martin Luther, who was the catalyst of this schism, posted his 95 Theses on the castle door at Wittenberg on that day, and things change fairly rapidly thereafter. I said here that Luther is a catalyst for this change. He's not somebody who comes out of nowhere and invents something entirely new. The church had been performing rather poorly ever since the 1300s. In the late 1300s, between 1374 and 1417, for example, they had made the great mistake of having 2 popes, and at times even 3 popes. That's not a very good strategy for a church that believes its pope to be infallible. This caused people to sow the seeds of doubt, obviously. The church was also very worldly. It was interested in building stuff, and that's what ultimately brought this problem. This is an illustration of Johann Tetzel selling indulgences. Johann Tetzel is a priest, and he's been sent by the Pope to raise money for St. Peter's Basilica, and he unfortunately goes to Luther's hometown and sells indulgences. Now, the idea of an indulgence is a fairly complicated one. It follows really from the idea of contrition and confession. These are sacraments that the church performs for people. So you confess your sins, you express contrition, and then the priest gives you something to do to atone for your sins. This is the Catholic tradition. And it's not a huge step from, say, working with the poor. Okay, so you have performed a sin, you have confessed your sin, and the priest says, okay, clean up the churchyard or help feed the poor or something like that. Well, it's not that big a step to, I don't have time to do that. How about if I just give the church money and the church does that? Okay? Tetzel took it a little bit further, and he's reported to have sold these indulgences in advance of sin, so you could buy your way into heaven. This was very, very terrifying to Luther, who was both a professor of theology and a parish priest, and also someone who was profoundly doubtful of his own salvation. He really didn't see why he or any other human merited salvation, and he was really concerned that the Pope was sending his flock straight to perdition. But as I said, Luther's not the only one who's thinking this way. But he's in the right place at the right time. He's quite articulate, and he knows how to write. And the printing press is very much available at this time, and that's all kind of new. there are also political reasons why things kind of worked out well for Luther. He's not a political animal. I'm not trying to suggest that Luther is looking at the political situation and deciding, well, this would be a good time for a reformation. But the fact is that he's in Germany, and Germany is divided into lots and lots of small, weak principalities. And in each of these principalities, there is a presence of the church. The church owns land, and the church appoints bishops or priests, and the church even imposes taxes. From the point of view of a prince, this is a problem, right? Because somebody else is taxing your peasants. So Luther's ideas here, the idea of breaking with the Pope, for example, offers princes an opportunity to take the church's land, basically. And that's an appealing plan. It's not the only reason that princes do it, and it's certainly not the reason that Luther suggests this. But nonetheless, it's in the background there. It's certainly part of the reason why the Reformation is successful in Germany. So let's oversimplify here what Luther's really saying. The main reason for doing this is because I want to contrast Luther with John Calvin in a second. Luther basically says that it's Scripture. The Pope, the Catholic Church at this point, believes that the source of theological authority, if you will, comes from three things. It comes from Scripture, it also comes from tradition, and it also comes from the Pope. Right? So what the Church has always done matters, what the Pope says matters, and what's in the Bible matters. And but what's in the Bible is the sole property of the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church is very much opposed to translating the Bible into vernacular languages. They keep it in Latin so that only priests can read it. Right? So they don't trust, they don't have a sense that the people should be reading the Bible. Not that literacy has been high over the last 1,500 years. Nonetheless, they are rather proprietary about Scripture as well. Luther's point of view is quite different. He says it's Scripture, faith and grace. Mostly, this is the one that really matters. It's Scripture. And the problem comes down to this. If you just believe that Scripture is what matters, it's very hard to find evidence for the Pope. Okay? Pope's not exactly in the Bible. There are some loose passages that you might be able to interpret as suggesting Pope, but there isn't really an obvious, clear admonition to have a Pope. Certainly there's nothing. There are no bishops. There are no saints. There are no rituals. There are no crucifixes. There are no fancy church decorations. None of that stuff belongs in the church as far as Luther is concerned. Luther thinks that the Bible should be translated so that everybody can read it. He thinks the church should be very spare. And above all, he doesn't think there should be a Pope. That's kind of a big deal if you're the Pope. It's hard to see how these two positions can be reconciled. But the Pope didn't exactly try. The Pope overreacted, I think, and within a few years, Luther finds himself excommunicated. But here again, as I said before, the political implications come to the fore. Because Luther's ideas are convenient to some princes, he's protected by various German princes, and so even though he's excommunicated, he survives to write lots and lots of books and tracts. Let's go on here. Now, one thing that's not so obvious about Luther, as radical as he is in terms of religion, he's not a social reformer. In 1524, after he publishes his translation of the Bible and several other works, peasants in Swabia and the rest of Germany follow in a revolt. It's called known as the Peasant War, where they say that Luther's teaching, they cite Luther, and they think that Luther's teachings about equality and about the supremacy of heavenly law over earthly law meant that they could stop paying their taxes. And when they did that, Luther published a book called, I'm sorry, they didn't just stop paying their taxes. They went on a rampage. Okay, fair enough. Luther published his pamphlet fetchingly titled On the Murdering Hordes of Peasants, in which he invited the princes to slaughter the peasants. Right? Luther is a believer in divine right monarchy. He is a believer in order. He's not a social reformer. Calvin, on the other hand, comes closer to that. John Calvin, who's a contemporary, he's a little bit younger, but he's born in France, and he leaves hurriedly for Geneva under the cloud of an accusation of heresy in the 1530s. Eventually, he winds up running Geneva as largely a police state, as a sort of a theocracy. From Calvin's point of view, rather, from Luther's point of view, the church is really subservient to the state. He's still got divine right monarchy, and he wants the state to help the church, but he sees them as separate. Calvin does not. Calvin really sees the church as the only thing that matters, and he believes the church should run the state. So there's a difference. And he runs Geneva. He has spies. He has people who visit people's houses and make sure that their morals are up to code. He's very extreme about this. This doesn't exactly make him what we think of as a social reformer, but it does make him much more of a threat to established order. For Calvin, if the king doesn't obey Scripture, you can kick out the king. Right? Luther does not see it that way. Right? So there's definitely a difference there, and that's important just because when we talk soon about the Puritans, they are Calvinists, not Lutherans, and that figures heavily all the way down to the American Revolution and perhaps beyond. The other difference between Calvin and Luther, we won't talk too much about today, but we will when we talk about the Puritans, is this extreme predestination. Calvin believes in a very strong version of predestination, meaning that the entire course of human history is mapped out ahead of time, that God knows exactly what's going to happen, and there's nothing you can do about it. His version is particularly strong, and it, again, has a lot of influence on how Puritans will think once they get to New England, but we'll put that off for later. So after Luther and Calvin, we now have in Europe two religions. That's really the problem. And naturally, in Europe, when you have two religions, at least in early modern Europe, you're going to have wars. And wars follow from this in quick succession. The 1500s and 1600s are very, very bloody. They're religious wars all over France, Germany, and in between. Significantly, England's religious strife is postponed. We'll talk about that shortly. And though Spain is not directly convulsed with religious violence, this Reformation causes, I think is the main cause of Spanish decline in this period. Okay, why is that? Well, not by itself. Spain is curiously obsessed with uniformity. Perhaps that's because the Iberian Peninsula at this time is particularly diverse. There's been a presence of Moors in Spain since about 700, or I should say for about less, 700, about 800. And Ferdinand and Isabella, those first new Renaissance princes that we talked about last time, that Machiavelli labeled as the first new princes, they succeed in kicking out the Moors from Spain in the Reconquista, that's reconquering Granada in the south of Spain, they also expel all the Jews who won't convert in 1492, and later they do the same to the Moors. So they're very, I should say the Spanish are not alone in believing that it is an act of treason to not believe as your prince does, but they seem to believe it more fiercely, so fiercely that Spanish kings tend to see themselves as the defenders of Catholicism in Europe. Let's see, if we go quickly through the reason for that, let's see, is here, or part of the reason for that, an interesting reason, is that when Ferdinand dies, one of the tricks of the Renaissance princes was strategic marriage, and Ferdinand was very good at this. He strategically married his daughter Juana to Philip the Handsome, who was a Habsburg, and as a result, when Ferdinand died, the Spanish crown was joined with the Habsburg. And so in addition to all that New World empire we were just looking at, Spain, in the person of first of Charles V, also Carlos I of Spain, controls all of this, and it's even more than that. These are ancestral Habsburg lands. He's also the Holy Roman Emperor, so these lands over here, all the way to France, basically, are part of the Holy Roman Empire. He doesn't really control those directly. There are lots of independent princes, but he has some authority over those as well. So this is just a humongous empire, and not only are they up against Protestants all over Germany, they also have this problem of the Ottomans, who are conquering up in the Balkans and also spreading over the Mediterranean. They eventually take the Balearic Islands too. So the Spanish are embroiled in lots of wars with religious overtones. These are clearly wars of religion up here. Whether the wars against the Ottomans are simply empires going at it or not, I'm not so sure. But war and religion together play a huge role in leading Philip II, who's Charles V's son, into bankruptcy, not once but 3 times. The immediate cause of that, of the real problem, is interestingly in the Dutch Netherlands. Habsburg also owned the Netherlands, and Philip II, I think, was born in native language is Flemish. He's the king of Spain, and he's the most virulent of the counter-reformationists. He's the one who manages to spend Spain broke 3 times, trying to fight Protestants, mostly in Spain. Mostly in the Netherlands, starting around 1566. This just takes quite a lot of effort to spend Spain broke, given that they have all of these silver mines going in the New World that are run by slaves. Massive amounts of silver are coming across the Atlantic all the time. England's joining it. It has something, it's kind of a big deal, and we'll talk more about that later. But the English and the Dutch as well were very good sailors, managed to intercept several of those treasure fleets. So that's part of Philip's problems. But basically the problem is they spent all the money trying to kill Protestants, and as a result, Spain does not really prosper much from all of the gold and silver of the New World. And by the time the 1600s rolls around, Spain is clearly in decline. Still very powerful, but definitely in decline. All right. Let's see. Okay. Before we turn to England, other questions about Spain and Portugal? All right. Fairly straightforward story. They get lucky, and then they squander the wealth. England's story, I think, is more complicated, probably just because I want to pay a little more attention to it. The short version, right here, is that weakness and folly of kings leads England to make some really right decisions. It's surprising when this happens, but such is the case. Unlike Spain and Portugal to a lesser extent, England is not, this path to absolutism is not really open to English kings. Right? I'll explain that, how that developed shortly. But English kings are weak. They're weak largely because of mistakes made by Henry VIII, but they remain weak and they remain poor, and as a result, they have to make deals. And so as the centuries progress, instead of becoming more powerful, well, English kings do become more powerful because England becomes more powerful. But within England, they become less powerful. They lose out to the nobility in the form of Parliament, and ultimately to the Commons. So the story is the ascendancy of Parliament. That's what we're going to tell. It's not part of anybody's plan. Right? We can say that Ferdinand was following Machiavelli's plan, for example. He was going from success to success. He was trying to become an absolute monarch. Louis XIV also seems to be acting, at least deliberately, according to some sort of plan. This is much different. England is a mess, and we'll see how that works. But because it's a mess, it turns into a constitutional monarchy. And that constitutional monarchy turns out to be a really good system for the late modern world. It's a really good system, and in part is responsible for first a market and trade revolution. So they'll grow from trade. I think it plays into a scientific revolution as well. You'll notice that Isaac Newton lives in the late 1600s in England. And also this political revolution I just talked about, the development of constitutional monarchy, that also has parallels in the colonies. You know, the same sort of system as developed in England also develops in the colonies. That is this penchant for self-government. That's obviously a big deal to us. Okay, so that's the overview. Let's take a look now at a more detailed view. We can think of it somewhat as an outline of the first half of the story. First, while Spain and Portugal were out conquering the world, England was busy making war with France. Between 1337 and 1453, England is involved in the 100 Years' War. This is a war that's sort of on again and off again, and it's over land mostly that we now think of mostly as French territory. But it goes back and forth, and it saps the strength of both England and France while the Spanish and Portuguese are moving along. After the 100 Years' War, which was started by Edward III, the Wars of the Roses ensue. And the Wars of the Roses are fought between the descendants of Edward III's 6 surviving sons. Right? So if you ever happen to be a medieval king, don't have 6 sons. Problem. This war goes on for about 30 years, and it finally ends in 1485 when Henry Tudor, chops off Richard's head at Bosworth Field. Okay. So at 1485, England finally has a king. It's a little early to say it's stable. Nobody would really want to bet on a guy who just is something like the 4th or 5th monarch in 20 years. But Henry VII turns out to be pretty talented. He manages to tame the aristocracy.